Hey everyone, it's Jonathan. Welcome to a brand new series that I guess I've decided to call Every Fairytale Ever. This is basically every version ever, but with a focus on fairy tales and less rigidity of sticking to one story at a time. I haven't really done an introductory mini-episode / update in a while. I actually went back to check. The last time I made a true, short introduction before the actual first episode of a series was in 2021 when I did the mini-series on Little Shop of Horrors. So it's been a long time. Since then, I've mainly been jumping right into the series and I just stick the intro into the first episode. And I originally figured I'd do the same with this one, but the first episode is going to be so long on its own. Plus, the first episode and several others were recorded before I had decided to make this into Every Fairytale Ever. So I knew this series was going to take a bit more explaining than normal, and I figured I'd be better off just making this introduction its own thing for those who care, and then I can keep it short and get right into things for the first episode. For now, Every Fairytale Ever will mostly just stick to a handful of well-known fairy tales, in this batch specifically 3, but in the future I want to branch out and cover all kinds of lesser-known stories, myths, and fairy tales from all around the world, some of which may only have ever been adapted once or twice and probably wouldn't ever even have enough to warrant a whole dedicated podcast series. This current batch of episodes started as another series on Cinderella. Back when we covered Cinderella like a year and a half ago, we mostly just stuck to Disney and Disney-adjacent episodes, like the iconic Disney version of Cinderella and its sequels and remakes, and then also the Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella, all 3 filmed versions of that musical. However, my original plan was to go much longer with that series because I had a lot more versions I wanted to cover, and I'd even started recording them at that time, but I ended up having to pause and move on to something else, and by the time I decided to bring it back, I'd already been thinking about covering a lot more fairy tales, so I decided to expand the series beyond just Cinderella. In the future, we'll go into more obscure fairy tales, but I figured I'd start out with something that most people would be familiar with and go with the big 3 princesses popularized by Walt Disney: Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty. Like I said, we covered Disney Cinderella in the last batch, but we'll be doing a lot more than just Disney this time around, though there will be plenty from them as well. We'll be going all over the place, as I usually do, from low-budget schlock like Filmation's animated Disney Snow White ripoff, to big-budget Hollywood blockbusters like this year's Disney live-action Snow White remake. But don't worry, we won't only be covering box office bombs, we'll also be doing the good stuff like Disney's original Snow White. As usual, this series will run the gamut, and it's going to be one of my longest yet. I originally thought about just doing 3 series in a row, moving from Cinderella to Sleeping Beauty and then finishing with Snow White, but the more I thought about it, the more I decided I'd rather just mix things up and keep it interesting, going back and forth from week to week. Plus, I have several TV shows that I'd like to cover that had episodes covering multiple princesses, and I figured for most of those, it kind of makes more sense to do one episode and cover all 3 stories. We've talked about some of these shows before. I did an episode on Shelley Duvall's Fairytale Theater with Callum from Once Upon a VHS, and I did another episode on Happily Ever After, Fairy Tales for Every Child with Jenna and Eli. And we'll be covering the Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty episodes of those, and hopefully some other shows later on that we've never touched before. Jenna and I have also been talking for ages about covering Disney's Descendants, which includes elements from all these stories and more, and while I haven't decided if I want to fold all that into this current series, in the future, Every Fairytale Ever will be the perfect place to cover something like that. I should also mention that because of the way I'm structuring this whole series, I'm kind of negating what I said at the beginning of the year about taking larger gaps between series and not starting a new one until I have most of the episodes ready to go. I do have several episodes ready to go, as I kind of worked ahead using a bunch of these as episodes on my main YouTube channel a while back. I already had to take a couple gaps during our Alice in Wonderland series because I wanted to make sure I got a few new episodes edited in time to be included. Most of that series I recorded last year as episodes of Wonderland Wednesday on my main channel, but I had 3 new episodes that Jen and I recorded in January and February that I wanted to make sure I got into this batch, so I stretched that series out a bit more than I'd planned. So now I'm jumping right into the next one a lot sooner than I'd planned. I currently have a full month's worth of episodes ready to go as I upload this video, so I'm hoping that that head start will let me get another month's worth edited before I run out of banked episodes. But if I do end up running out at some point, I'll take a week or 2 off as needed. Again, not what I wanted to do at the start of the year, but the way this series has so rapidly expanded in the course of the last 2 months of planning, it no longer makes sense for me to wait until I have all the episodes recorded and or edited before I start releasing them. We're just diving in and I'll take breaks as needed, and I'm hoping those breaks will be few and far between. So this week we'll kick the series off with an episode on early theatrical animated shorts featuring Cinderella, and depending on how quickly I can get it edited, next week will either be one of the episodes I have ready to go, or we'll have another episode with Callum talking about Shelley Duvall's Fairytale Theater. I want to keep things mixed up as best as I can and not do too many of one story right in a row, so we'll see how fast I can get some other things edited. The ones I have ready to go right now are mostly versions of Cinderella, but I have several other things recorded waiting to be edited, like episodes on the low-budget direct-to-DVD Asylum versions of Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, as well as episodes on Disney's Maleficent, both 1 and 2, plus an obscure anime series from the 70s with versions of all 3 stories. Either way, all those are episodes you can look forward to in the coming months, so we'll see you soon for Every Fairy Tale Ever on Every Version Ever. Thanks for listening.